we've got a couple guys here, Casey Ogan and Eddie Faison. Faison, of course, with a little bit more experience as you see it here. I had a chance to talk to Faison, and he feels like his cardio is going to hold up. That's always a question. We'll bring the fighters out and take a look at these super heavyweights.
The following contest is in the RFO Super Heavyweight Division, and it is brought to you by Klein Brothers Tree and Lawn Care Specialties. Introducing first, making his way down the aisle into the blue corner, please welcome Casey Ogan.
Casey Ogan comes to the cage, the less experienced fighter, but he has logged some miles in the cage. John, he's 2-0. How did he get it done?
Well, his first fight only lasted 58 seconds. He wins by TKO, referee stoppage from strikes. Incredible debut. That was back in February of this year. Then just fairly recently in June, he wins a decision. And for an amateur fighter, I think it is incredibly important that you get a decision win early on in your career, because what that tells you is, are you in shape enough, or do you need to get in better shape? Because those 3 rounds are a very long time for an amateur.
Yeah, it's three minutes, but also when you look at the size of these guys, super heavyweights, we're talking a different level. And to go 3-minute rounds says something about the cardio of Casey Ogan.
Yeah, and that's it's very important. It says something about, I mean, heck, I remember the first time I went full distance. It was an eye-opener, and I said to myself, leaving the cage, I said, I need to be in better shape. This is, I mean, I was just spent at the end. I had nothing that last 45 seconds, so it really tells me a lot that this guy's going to come in, especially with the experience, that experienced opponent he is facing.
Almost 4 months ago was the last time we've seen Casey Ogan, and his debut was just in February, so he's been a busy fighter. This is his 3rd fight in 2016. Ogan only 20 years old, so you can't even buy him a drink after if he wins. The super heavyweight's always something fun to watch because they come out, they throw big bombs, and they try to get each other out of there just as fast as possible so you don't have to go the distance.
Right, and then what you have on the opposite side is there's oftentimes a lot of clinching and fighting up against the cage as these guys rest on each other because they are exhausted. But as we'll get to Mr. Faison in a second, who's got the much more experience, with his experience going 3 rounds, cardio shouldn't be a problem.
And his opponent making his way down the aisle into the right corner, please welcome Eddie Faison.
Eddie Faison heads of the ring, and he is also an imposing figure. Comes in with a 6-6 record, coming off a win, which broke a 2-fight losing streak, John. And again, Faison is a guy with some pretty heavy hands.
Absolutely, he's won by technical knockout in 53 seconds, 1:35 seconds. In the 2nd round, he's gone to decision where he's lost. He's gone to decision where he's won. So his cardio is not an issue. The only thing that I question, and not question is in the sense of a bad way, it's for an amateur at super heavyweight, as we took a look at the tail of the tape, an amateur at super heavyweight to have 12 fights, well, it's almost difficult to find opponents.
Yeah, what stands out to me, I've seen Faison fight, he's deceptively fast, and the impressive thing to me is the 2 knockouts in the 2nd round, which means that Faison can carry the power deep into a fight. It's not a 3-minute, 1-minute burst at the beginning, and if he doesn't get him out of there, he's going to lean on him. Faison carries that heavy-handed knockout power into the 2nd and 3rd round, so he's always going to be a threat to knock out his opponent. That's something Mr. Ogan's going to want to keep an eye on.
Absolutely, because he's won decisions in the 3rd round. He's won TKOs in the 2nd round. And here we got a couple of the big boys.
We send it up to Jake Digman for the official introductions.
The following contest is in the RFO Super Heavyweight Division, and it is brought to you by Klein Brothers Tree and Lawn Care Specialties. Introducing first in the blue corner, he fights out of Prospect, Ohio. He weighed in at 322 pounds, representing Hollow Point Fight Team with an MMA record, 2 wins, 0 losses. Please welcome Classic Casey Ogan. His opponent in the red corner, he fights out of Warren, Ohio. He weighed in at 365 pounds, representing MTC Hornets with an MMA record, 6 wins, 6 losses. Please welcome Eddie the Teddy Faison. This bout is scheduled for 3 3-minute rounds, and when the action begins, your referee is Mr. Brent Bollock.
Classic Casey Ogan in the green and black. Eddie Faison in the Pittsburgh Steeler trunks. Third man in the cage, Brent Bullock, brings them together. Ryan Kavanaugh along with John Sturmack. And we have just shy of 700 pounds sharing this cage. Well over 700 if you throw Brent Bullock in.
365.
Side leg kick. Watch for the speed of Faison. Oh, and Ogan turns his back. And that is a 40-pound advantage that Faison has as he pushes Casey up against the cage.
Like I said in the beginning, oftentimes with super heavyweights, you see a lot of clinch work up against the cage.
Ogan turns him around. Nice job. And, ooh, nice uppercut there by Faison.
Yeah, Faison's doing a good job up against the cage, throwing punches back.
Ogan working the knees to the left side of Faison. Shoots for a takedown, and it's Faison who lands on top of Ogan. How do you get out from 365 pounds?
Pray? I don't know. I mean, that is a big man on top of you.
Ogan working to control him. As Faison looks to push the knee of Ogan down and pass the guard. And he does, at least into half guard.
He's in a half guard right now, amateur division. There's no elbows allowed at this level, but he can push his forearm into his throat and punch, which he's doing. And right now, Ogan looks like he wants to try to get out of there, get back to full guard. For a second there, I thought he was going to give up his back.
It's exhausting for Ogan at this point. Faison with a good right hand, which allows Ogan to shrimp and regain full guard.
And just like that, he's back in a half guard.
And Ogan takes some deep breaths. Hammer fist from Faison.
You know, I had one of my jiu-jitsu coaches tell me one time, you know, half guard is also known as half mount. So for the guy on top, he can still do a lot of damage there.
Right now, Faison trying to control the wrist of Ogan, looking for a submission here, John.
Yeah, looks like he's looking for an Americana. You're not really going to get it from half guard. He's going to have to get out of half guard, get to side control, and then he can start working his submissions.
Ogan right now looks like he's just trying to minimize the damage and ride out the last 36 seconds.
And gives up his back. Never a good thing.
Head and arm choke possibly from Eddie Faison. Does he have enough to finish?
I think he does. I think he does. He's got to put his weight on that arm. Goes over. Oh, switches to an armbar. Beautiful technique, but in turn,
loses position, and now it's Ogan trying to pay him back for some of that ground and pound he gave him.
A little too late for Ogan to do as much damage as he'd like to do to get that round back. I think that's a pretty easy call. I got that 10-9 Faison. What about you?
Definitely 10-9 Faison. He dominated the majority of that round on top of Ogan, and that's a big man to get off you as we took a look at Eddie Faison.
Yeah, and he was doing it. He had everything in his favor until the very end when he gave up that control, and all of a sudden he found himself on his back in guard, and Ogan was able to land some punches, but in my opinion, not enough to steal the round.
Look at Casey Ogan in the corner right now. We take a look at some of this action. Here was the takedown, and Faison just got bull rushed Ogan to maintain top control. And this is where the majority of this fight was spent, with Eddie Faison on top of Casey Ogan.
So if you're the coach of Ogan right now, what are you saying? And if you're the coach of Faison, what are you saying?
Well, first of all, you can't get back in that position if you're Casey Ogan. It's going to be very difficult to give up, and you're also down around, so you got to start increasing your output and getting in his face. And for Faison, more of the same.
I agree 100%. If you're Ogan, when you know the fight's going to go to the cage, you know there's going to be clinch work, you got to do everything you can to get that fight to the ground with you on top.
We're set for the second of scheduled 3 rounds of actions. 3 rounds of mixed martial arts action here at RFO. Big Guns 20. Eddie Faison in the Steeler trunks. Casey Ogan in the black and green. Ogan with an undefeated 2-0 mark, and Faison just punched it in the face.
Good left by Faison. Ogan tried to come back but missed.
Ogan showing some big-time power strikes. Faison avoids them both.
Good check there.
Got to watch out for those right hands of Casey Ogan. If one of them connects, Faison is in trouble.
Yeah, he's really throwing with everything he has, but you know, if you're just punching at air, you're doing nothing. And here's just what we talked about. Faison's got Ogan up against the cage. Ogan's got to have some way to turn this around and put Faison on his back.
And Ogan with a nice right hand off the cage. But Faison closes distance again. We'll see if he tries to take it to the ground.
And Ogan's corner's yelling, use your hands, use your hands. What he's talking about is get his elbows down, push him away, and create some separation.
Faison trying to secure an arm, create an opening to land some of those right hands. It's Ogan who turns the tables and has Faison up against the cage.
He needs to do a better job of using his head to get under Faison's chin and make him go where he wants to go.
Both men trying to land the body shots with the knees. Big uppercut by Faison, just misses, and Ogan lands it right upstairs.
And this is where Faison's experience is going to come in. He knows he's got a lot of time left. He's got 1 minute and 10 seconds left in the round. He's got to do his work, but he doesn't have to panic.
Casey Ogan looked like he was going to take advantage of one of those leg kicks and turn it into a takedown. Both these fighters still very dangerous. Ooh. Spinning attempt by Ogan misses, and Faison lands a couple solid shots.
Yeah, that was a nice 2-piece right there. Hit him right on the button, but Ogan does not go down. And again, like we said earlier, with any super heavyweight competition, here you go. Guys up against the cage looking to do their thing. Now they separate.
Faison landed a couple solid punches right before the release.
Ooh!
Nice straight left by Eddie Faison. They're getting right up in our cameraman Ty House's kitchen. Faison pouring it on as we come to the final 10 seconds of round number 2. Faison working, body, head. Good finish for Eddie Faison.
Yeah, I think that's another round for Faison. I think Ogan fared better, but I think what we're seeing right now, Ryan, 12 fights says a lot.
It's hard to substitute for experience inside the cage. And Eddie Faison has that in spades. 12 fights, Casey Ogan only 2, even though he's undefeated. And in my opinion here, John, if he wants to stay undefeated, he's got to look for a stoppage on Faison. He has to land one of those big right hands. We take a look at some of the action here from round number 2.
And here we go. Like we said, super heavyweights up against it. And I think what you're going to see, nice right hand. Ogan's throwing everything he can at him, but it's just not connecting solid. And I think that's what has to happen. And what his corner man has to tell him, listen, you're going to have to make a connection. And if you smell blood, go after it. Because right now, Faison looks absolutely calm as can be. And Ogan, you can tell with his hands up on his trainer's shoulders, he looks exhausted.
Hollow Point Fight Team. Casey Ogan represents. He's got 3 minutes for a stoppage. 3 minutes remain in this fight. It's Eddie Faison and Casey Ogan, super heavyweights at RFO Big Guns 20. Fighters trade kicks to start off his third and final round. And Ogan hits him with a right. Faison pushes him back up to the cage. And this is where Faison's been able to do a lot of his damage. It's going to the body and then the head of Casey Ogan.
Now Ogan with the advantage, pushing him up the cage. He's got to take advantage right now. Those leg kicks are going to mean nothing. You got to go, ooh, he did, but he missed.
Faison switching his stance from southpaw to orthodox. Nice body work by Eddie Faison.
And he keeps punishing that body. And I was told once, and I love this phrase, body shots are like vitamins. They don't take effect right away, but over time they work.
And that's absolutely true, especially when dealing with guys deep in the third round. Starting to get tired. Faison's still throwing. Lands a couple of punches. There's another. Goes downstairs, mixing it up well, and Eddie Faison looks to be the fresher fighter. A couple left uppercuts.
About four that landed solid, and he keeps working the body.
And Eddie Faison looks to just be getting warmed up as we're halfway through the third and final round. The double punches. Page out of Sakuraba's book, but they're punches.
And he marched Ogan right across the cage like nothing.
There's a punch to the sternum and then upstairs. And the output of Faison in this round has been outstanding. By far the most punches we've seen thrown by either fighter in a round.
And even though he looks to be coming down a little bit as far as intensity, he's still punching, using his knees. Nice left hook.
Absolutely.
Nice right.
And he's got Ogan's head pinned up against the cage, so there's no give when those punches land.
Yep, he's got his head pinned right up against the cage. And even right on top of the railing. Really impressive.
Ooh, Ogan still in this fight, but he cannot get Eddie Faison off of him. Nice shot by Faison to the body, and Faison has been outstanding with his pressure in this third round.
I can't say enough. These guys have done an amazing job. But I think at the end of the day, 12 fights versus 2 is the story.
It's been the difference, and Eddie Faison, 10 seconds left in this fight, looking to close it out. And he's working the knees, the body, and the head. Casey Ogan going for broke, and there's the horn. We're going to go to the official judges.
One last ditch effort, but in my opinion, too little, too late, and I think we have a 30-27 decision.
I would not disagree with you, but credit to both these guys for putting it on the line, surviving the 3 rounds. And Casey Ogan looks exhausted.
Yeah, he really does. He looks exhausted, and we look at the replays here, we're going to see what we pretty much saw the entire time. Eddie Faison pretty much having his way.
This was the story of the fight. Faison landing solid. And just too much clinch control, Casey Ogan, hats off to both these guys. The officials have rendered their scorecard. We send it up to the one and only Jake Dignan for the official announcement.
Mansfield, Ohio, show your love for both of these RFO competitors. After 3 rounds, we go to the judges' scorecards, where all 3 judges have scored this contest 30-27 for your winner by unanimous decision, Eddie the Teddy Faison.
Matt Trukovich going to speak with the winner.
Your winner, Eddie the Teddy. I don't think Casey's used to going against guys that got size on him. That definitely played a part in winning that fight. Was your game plan to come in here and grind him down like that?
Actually, my plan was to submit him. The attempts I did didn't work, so I just kept going until I wore him down.
Actually, someone sitting next to me said I'd never seen a guy throwing that size try to throw in a triangle. It looked good, man.
I wish it would have sunk in, but there's a reason we don't do it.
You've had a lot of fights. What's next for you?
I'm turning pro after the new year.
Let's hear it for your winner, Eddie the Teddy Faison.